Deep down, you're a nerd, and you might have heard of Linux from a friend or on Reddit or some other source, and you want to give it a shot. There are plenty of YouTube videos out there on how to install Linux, how to fix certain problems, but I wanted to put together a video to hopefully keep your Linux introduction smooth and stable, and at the same time, how you can have fun. Because you want to use something different. Windows and Mac just don't do it for you. You know, you want to use something that's different, looks different, feels different, and something you can part of how you can have fun in your Linux experience. Let's first talk about some things you need to keep in mind. The single most important thing to keep in mind is that you want to dual boot if you're already using Windows. There are several YouTube videos out there showing how to do that for the Linux distro that you're interested in. But please consider dual booting instead of wiping your previous OS. Second thing is learn how to set up a live USB. Chances are you probably already know how to do that because most likely that's how you install Linux. But once you have that live USB, hold on to it. Don't, wipe it or put it away. Because they can really come in handy. I mean, at the very least, if you familiarize yourself with tools like Gparted, at the very least, you can use it to manage your partitions. Let's say along your Linux journey, you want to increase the size of a certain partition, your Linux partition or your Windows partition, as you need. Maybe you want to install some, especially like games that take up a lot of space on a particular partition. You need to allow more space. So at the very least, you can use it for that, but you can always use it to help with other issues as well. So you definitely want to keep a live USB handy. And this is a, age-old question of which Linux distro to choose. I mean, every time I'm on Reddit, that's like a question on the beginner like Linux page of like which Linux distro to choose. First thing, consider choosing a distro that already has the video drivers ready for you. I'm on Pop! OS, and that does if you have NVIDIA. I'm not sure about AMD. But try to find a Linux distro that will have video drivers already set up for you once you install it. That way you don't have to worry about it. Even until now, trying to set up video drivers on your own, especially as a beginner, still causes issues and leads people to lose their install. So I would strongly recommend picking a distro that has those already packaged for you when you install them. And if you're looking for something stable for everyday use, coding, gaming, etc., then consider any of the following distros. One last thing about picking distros, although it's not as important as before, like when I was, like 12, trying to, decide which distro to use. It's not as important because nowadays there's a lot of documentation on like almost any distro, but every distro is based on something else. And I feel like the two main ones that people use nowadays are Debian based and Arch based. If you pick a distro that is based on any of these two bases, chances are you're going to have a ton of documentation to read on. So if you run into any issue or something, chances are someone before you ran into that same issue. And last point about keeping your Linux experience stable. If you've gotten your video drivers set up by choosing a distro that does that for you upon installation, then you actually don't really need to use the terminal much. That being said, everyone, is a beginner at some point and did something in the terminal that caused a huge problem. The good news is that every problem I've encountered is fixable, but this can especially be hard for those not familiar with Bash or don't know much about the file system and not what shouldn't be messed with. So this doesn't mean never use the terminal. It's definitely very good to learn, but just take things slow. Research something before you try it. Using a command that to change like your icon theme isn't going to do anything catastrophic. But if it's ever something you're unsure about, don't hesitate to research it first. And the most important thing is trust your gut on this. Anytime I was like, this won't hurt, I ended up regretting it. So if your gut is not feeling well about something, you research something, it's like, oh, run this series of commands, and just copy and paste it. If you're ever unsure about it, trust your gut and research it first. All right, now all that wasn't so bad. Those are just the points I wanted to go over on how to keep your setup process nice and smooth. But now let's talk about the fun part. Here are my beginner-friendly tips on how to keep your Linux experience fun. First off is customization. With Linux, you can almost endlessly customize your install however you like it. The points I'm about to bring up are things I do on a regular basis just for the fun of it, and so I never get bored or tired of looking at my Linux install. And to me, that's one of the most important things about operating systems is you don't want to get bored of them, and that's the whole point of why I switched to Linux. So first point on that is to achieve that is install different desktop environments. If you're not familiar, desktop environments are like different, almost like UIs or GUIs, graphical user interfaces, for your system. Okay, so if you imagine, your Linux install, imagine it's just what's called headless, like it's just a terminal. A desktop environment is what turns that into, what you use on a regular basis for like Windows or Mac. Is that look and feel of your operating system. So, and yes, you can install several alongside each other. You can install different desktop environments alongside each other, have them all at the same time. You just log out, pick whichever one you want to use, and log back in, and it'll log you back into that one. Now, your Linux install comes with a default desktop environment, and some installation setups, they'll allow you to choose from different options. But regardless of what the situation is, really consider installing other desktop environments. I mean, some of them have more of a Mac feel to them, some of them have more Windows feel to them, and some are entirely different. I right now have GNOME, KDE, and Cinnamon installed. I mean, each one has their own further customization, but I just use whichever one I feel like. Every couple of days I switch. And I never get bored of my setup. The next thing is set up various themes. Again, this is something really easy on most desktop environments, especially now as they've further evolved. But especially if you have different desktop environments, I mean, you can set up each of these themes to have a different theme. Each of these desktop environments to have a different theme. And Linux themes are like really, really cool compared to what I've seen for like Windows and Mac. And you can, constantly switch between them. And I actually have a video on a cool script you can write to randomly change your theme every time your computer starts up. So if you like, consider watching that video. I'll put the link in the description. Second thing you can do to make a Linux experience fun is scripting. Now, I know that that sounds like something, possibly scary. But scripting is what keeps your Linux install yours. So you can do scripts to do pretty much whatever you like. And again, on my channel, there's a couple of videos for different scripts that might be useful for you. But that's the whole point of this, is you want to make your Linux install yours. And I feel like scripting is what helps do that. And the more creative you are with scripting, with ideas for scripts, the more you can make your Linux install yours. All right, thanks guys for watching. I know this is a bit of self-promotion, but consider subscribing to my channel. Other than the React and Blackadder shorts I post, most of my videos are about Linux, so I have existing videos you might find helpful, and I try to keep uploading Linux videos that you might be interested in.